This is the concierge, sir.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Concierge Confidential. I'm your host, Brian Ortega, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking about planned or unplanned Vegas, which is the best way for attacking Sin City. So I did see this pop up on Twitter that someone said, I come to Vegas and I don't plan anything. I don't plan cabanas. I don't plan restaurants. I don't plan show tickets. Nothing. I book my rooms when I land in the town. And I think it's interesting because that is in some ways sometimes fun, and then in some ways quite reckless, and I don't think I could ever do it. I, being a planner, could never do something that was completely unplanned, but I do go on vacations myself. I do go to like Los Angeles a lot, and I do tend to have a general outline of what I want to do. But we'll talk about Vegas in particular, because Vegas feels like a place that you can get away without a plan because there's just so many options, right? Well, if you come on a weekend like Memorial Day weekend that just passed, you might be stuck, eating in the food court because you don't have access to any of the restaurants because you didn't make a reservation. So I'll be talking about that coming up next. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about planned versus unplanned trips to Las Vegas. So, like I said in the opening, I did see somebody say they never plan when they come to Las Vegas. So when I go out, the way that I've done this, and for those of you that have been listening a long time, you guys kind of know, if I'm going to try a new place out and I want to experiment, I will go just... And this helps because, I've lived in the city for a long time and I've worked in the industry, so I kind of know the new things that are, on Las Vegas Boulevard or in the surrounding areas. And I'll just pull up a map of the Strip, and then I'll go hotel by hotel and try to figure out what I haven't done. So, I'll go from, Mandalay Bay, Luxor, Excalibur, New York, Park MGM, Aria, and then just kind of keep going down, and I'll just sort of mark off in my head what I haven't tried, if I want to go there, if I want to hang out there, and then I go from there. So that's what I do. And I live here. So, if something's closed, it's no big deal. I can go back another day, or I can just go to, my second option that's close by, and then I'll go, experience that, of course. When you're visiting the city, many people like to plan their trips out. But can Vegas be done unplanned? I would say to a degree. I would say the things I would never come here without having is a hotel reservation. I think that's very common sense for most people, that they don't want to sleep on the side of the street. They do want to stay and know that they have a hotel set for them. So what I would do, I would recommend, you usually want to book your trip to Vegas, or you book anywhere, to be honest, usually within 3 months of your trip to Las Vegas. Of course, unless it is for an event. So, for example, like F1, New Year's Eve, any event where we know that there's going to be a lot of people. Those you definitely have to book as far in advance as possible because people are going to be coming no matter what. So the big events, you definitely have to plan as far out as humanly possible. Same thing with the Kentucky Derby. When we went, we basically booked it in the middle of summer so we can have it ready in spring. But let's just say that you're going for kind of a random week in July or a random week in August. I would actually start looking, early, obviously. And what I would do is I would look every single day, just a glance, at different hotels that you're trying to go to, any deals that they have pop up. They do have things like Memorial Day sales. They'll have Veterans Day sales. Always kind of look for the sales and deals for that time of year. And that's a really good way of doing it. Booking directly with the hotel, I always recommend do. You will find places like TripAdvisor or other places that Travelocity will book trips, with a discount. But once you do end up getting to the hotel and you want to, upgrade your rooms or do anything, it's extremely unlikely you're going to be able to get an upgrade without paying anything because you're basically locked into those rooms and you kind of have to stay in those rooms once you check into the hotel. But if you check, 2 months out, we might see some occupancy going down, then that's when they'll sort of launch a sale, or they'll have like a flash deal for something, and that's where you can really get down on those deals. One that I would recommend is another thing that you have to book far in advance is your plane ticket. So it always kind of is interesting to talk about like planning for, a trip. It depends how far you're going. So, for example, like I was going to Los Angeles essentially. So I could drive, I could fly. So I booked my hotel room first, and that's when the deal came up as well. And there's also lots of flights that go to LA. So that's one that I can actually wait a little bit longer on, just out of convenience, knowing kind of what I'm doing before I go. And that's what I like to do. I like to book the hotel room first, and then from there, I'll book the flight. But yeah, it's always one of those things where you kind of have to just understand how you like to plan things. If you're able to drive somewhere, I would definitely say that should be the travel portion should be the second part that you plan, because if worst comes to worst, you can always drive to your location. So I'm from Arizona, so most of the time I book flights and go to Tucson, but if worst comes to worst and I really need to be there, I can always drive. Going across the country, it's a totally different story. You might want to book your flight first and then sort of wait and see where you can get like a good deal for a hotel room. Yes, we do tend to have deals for hotel rooms the night of. It obviously works best midweek. So if you're visiting and you're going to come for like 2 nights, you want to come on like for a Tuesday with a checkout on a Thursday, or for example, like a Monday and a checkout on a Wednesday. Those are actually not bad. You can definitely get away with those as long as there's not like a big giant convention in town. The weekends is a little bit tougher. The weekends, the price will certainly go up because we like to fill our rooms, but we also know that there's a little bit of a desperation factor when you're booking same day. Obviously, early in the morning. Yes, you can book directly at the desk, but nobody likes to do that. So usually you can book same day online, or you could call. And most of the times I'd recommend you call, especially if it's the same day. Of course, you can always go through Travelocity and all those other companies if you'd like to do that as well. My big gripe, or my big thing is restaurant reservations. So I was recently watching a YouTube video of a British YouTube creator who, we should also note that she likes to shit on all the places she goes to. And I don't know if it's like for comedy or it's just like her bit, that's what she does, is where she basically just goes and says, oh, I couldn't get anything. She ended up going to the Wynn and the Bellagio. We'll use the Wynn as an example. So she went to the Wynn, didn't like the decor. She also went in February, which is when our pools are closed. I believe it might have been early March as well. And they were under renovation. Just so everybody knows, our pools, most of the time, are open from middle to late March until about November. That's usually when our pools are open. Some pools are open all year round because they are heated, but most of our pools do shut down for about 3 or 4 months in like the really like slow, not peak times of the year. She also was talking about, all the amenities in the room. We won't get into that because that has nothing to do with planning, but not understanding that when you come to Las Vegas, and this is for all my British friends out there, and anybody from that part of the world, is that we do not have coffee makers. This is for also people who live in America. Vegas hotel rooms do not have coffee makers. It is a very well-known fact for everybody out there that coffee makers are not standard for Las Vegas hotel rooms. Many hotels now will have cooling trays and cooling fridges where you can store things, but it is quite small. It is usually meant for like a couple of drinks like waters and sodas, not for basically your entire dinner from one of the restaurants. We did have a guest walk up one time and said, we have all of this food and we need to, didn't know how much it was, and we want to keep it refrigerated. Well, if you have like 5 stacks of to-go boxes, we don't have enough room for that. I'm sorry, it's the way it works. You can request a refrigerator. Sometimes it's an extra cost. No, we do not have, and sometimes we do. We do have fridges that we can give. I think we might also give microwaves, but I'd have to double check on that. Microwaves also not a common thing to have in your room. Do we have microwaves? I have to ask that next time I go. So yeah, no microwaves. Okay? Just no. Okay? So the thing that I wanted to get to with this was that she was at the Wynn, and it was also a weekend. It was like a Saturday. And she stated like, oh, I can't go to any of the restaurants here because one, they're too fancy, and two, you need a reservation. And I think having a reservation for one person is weird. Having a reservation for one person is actually very hard to do in Vegas because many of the reservation systems will not make a reservation for one guest. Sometimes they do. For that, you would have to call the restaurant, and a lot of times the restaurant will make a reservation for one person. Obviously, if it's a very popular restaurant, you may or may not get one because the tables are full. And if anything worse comes to worst, you can usually sit at the bar, which every single restaurant in Las Vegas has a bar of some kind. Unless it's an Asian restaurant. Lots of Asian restaurants, for some reason, don't have bars. Like I went to Blossom over at the Aria. They didn't have a bar. And I also went to I love Red 8, and Red 8 also does not have a bar either. And Bar Wazuzu, but which is also there. Or it's just called Wazuzu. Those places tend not to have bars because sometimes they have sushi bars instead. So they really have like a limited amount of space, and that's kind of like not their function. But most of the time, restaurants will have bars that you can sit at for single diners. Why? Because we get lots of conventioneers that come to Vegas alone, and they have to eat somewhere too. So it was really no excuse for her to say that, oh, all these places are expensive, i.e., you're at the Wynn. And two, I go and eat alone at a lot of restaurants on the Strip for single people. You just have to be comfortable essentially eating at the bar, and that's all you have to do. There are a couple restaurants that I have eaten by myself at a table for one, and one of them is Red 8. Another one is actually Jasmine, which is over at the Bellagio, and I really wanted to sit in the dining room because the dining room is phenomenal. It's probably one of my favorite Vegas restaurant rooms in the entire city. It's just big. It's just basically like just big 4 walls. 3 of them have glass that look out to the Bellagio fountains. And it feels like so old school, like 90s luxury Vegas. That's when it was opened. And I love it. I love it for that. Just a big room with windows, and you can see the entire city from right there. But Jasmine, beautiful, beautiful views inside that restaurant, and beautiful china. It's so good. The plateware is phenomenal. But yes, restaurant reservations you can do if it's a low number of guests. So if it is like 1 to 2 guests, that is something that you can certainly do and pull off, because if they don't have a table available, you can usually sit at the bar. Once you get to 3 or more guests, having no reservation is actually like really irresponsible, because you're probably not going to be able to get a seat anywhere because one, nobody likes sitting 3 people at the bar because that is now a group, that is a party. 2 people, that's 2 couples, it's 2 singles, whatever. You can move over a seat. Hopefully, you find a place for 2 people. Anything for 3 or more people, you're going to have to sit at a table. And if you are going to a more high-end restaurant or a high-end demand restaurant, you are taking up a big space and you have to make a reservation. Just remember this little tip. Anything that is an odd number will always require the next number up. So what does that mean? So for example, if you have a party of 3, you will be seating at a 4-top, a table for 4. If you have a party of 5, you will be sitting at a 6-top, a place that can accommodate 6 people. If you have 7 guests, obviously you would take up an 8-seat table, or like a Lazy Susan round table. So us making the adjustments going up is usually not a problem. Like, oh, I have 5 guests. Oh, I want to add 1 more. Not a problem. 5 to 6 people, no big deal. 6 to 5 people, also no big deal. But when you start going from 4 to 5 people, that changes things. When you go from 2 to 3 people, also changes things. So it is really important to note that those distinctions are made. And especially on the day of, The day of is when they start actually locking in tables. So to give you guys kind of a peek behind what it is like for restaurants and what their reservation system will look like, what they end up doing is you make your reservation, a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance, a month in advance, 30 days. And you will get this person has booked. And then an automated system will send them an update the same day to tell you that your seat is, there. And you want to approve if you want to acknowledge it. Then what will happen internally in the system, it will say that this, and sometimes it happens instantaneously when you make the reservation, this table was automatically assigned to table 14. And then as we get closer to the day, as sort of like the puzzle pieces start clicking into place, it will actually change sometimes. It'll say, this table has changed, especially, and it happens a lot when you check in. This table has changed from table 14 to table 7. So now what that is they are finding more reservations for a certain number of guests, and they are fitting the puzzle pieces where they maximize money or maximize profit for each table they sell. They don't want to have a table with an empty seat, essentially, if they can avoid it. Obviously, when you have 5 guests, you're going to have an empty seat somewhere. It's just that's the way it works. Or maybe you won't. So that is what is shifting and happening, which is why it's important to make reservations ahead of time so you can get the best table and go from there. It also is important because that is where you can get guarantees on where you sit. So a really good example would be places like Delilah or places like the Bellagio. Places like Mayfair Supper Club. Because Mayfair Supper Club is actually a really fun way of explaining it, is that when you make a reservation for Mayfair Supper Club, they have a very large room. So they actually have their main dining room that looks out to the Bellagio fountains. That is where the main show is. That is where you want to be. You want to be in the action. Then you also have a separation with a door, so it actually quiets the sound. They actually will have like a DJ in there rather than listening to the music from the restaurant. And it's a very beautiful long bar. And they have, seats that you can sit at. And those are for walk-ins and also walk-ins. And that's basically it. So walk-ins. So that is the overflow room. That is where you will sit. If you walked into if you walked into Mayfair Supper Club and said, oh, I have a party of 2. I'd like to dine tonight. Do you have a reservation? No. They will put you in that much shittier room, to be completely honest with you. If you have a reservation, I found this out because I took my mom there, and I said, I just want to make sure we're guaranteed to be in the main room. I did it the day before, and they said, anybody who's made a reservation online or ahead of time, essentially, so on the phone's cool too, you will be assigned to the main dining room. So for some places, that is the reason you make the reservation, so you can get the full expectation of what you're getting for. This does happen to Dulles quite a bit. It's important to note that this is a really good example of a hard to get reservation, and you kind of deal with it if you can get one. But you make a reservation for Delilah. They are much easier at seating larger groups than they are smaller groups. So if you are a larger group, like a group of 5 or 6, the week of, it is much easier to find a reservation. Sometimes, not all the time. It is actually a very hard reservation anytime you go. But most of the time, 4 or more guests, you have a better shot of making a reservation than you are for 1 to 2 guests. And 1 to 2 guests, you will almost always be seated at a bar top. 90% of the time that is going to happen. They have a couple 2-tops. They are kind of around the edges of the room, and those are actually much harder reservations to snag, and the tables actually kind of suck, to be honest with you. A lot of times what will happen, you will be seated outside. You do not want, if you are told you have reservations at Delilah, to sit outside. Sitting outside, you are basically a second-class citizen when you are put outside at Delilah because all the action is on the inside. So, it is unfortunate. It does happen quite a bit, but that is the name of the game for eating at restaurants that are very hard to get into. Places like Carbone Riviera, for example, Delilah, Carbone, it happens all the time. Like Carbone Riviera, the really cool thing about the Bellagio is that any of the restaurants that are around the strip, around the fountains, have pretty good views of the fountains themselves, except Prime. Prime, if you are seated sort of like away from the windows, it's sort of enclosed. Not really great seats. Same thing could be said for Yellowtail. Yellowtail, I did not even know it had a view of the fountains because the one time I went there a long time ago, we sat in the bar area and we were not able to see the fountains. So just be careful. But Carbone Riviera, really big room, beautiful, and I love the way they designed it where you could sit at the bar and they have a window that looks out to the fountains, and it's a beautiful photo. So really great. Really, really love it. And that's a great place. So like Carbone Riviera, if you are a single diner, is a great place to try because usually you'll find it's not a very big bar, but you can walk in, they do the full menu. It's basically the same experience you get. They have bread service. It's a whole thing. Make sure you check out the pictures that I took for Carbone Riviera on the Instagram, Concierge Confidential _LV. And then again, my personal one, Brian _Ortega 26. But those places, hard to get reservations for, are good for if you don't have a reservation coming in at all. I sometimes will recommend setting up a reservation for a place. A lot of places will require you to give your credit card. Just note, they are very serious, for the most part, about those 24-hour cancellation policies. So if you need to cancel your reservation, do it before the 24 hours comes up, because then they will charge you. It does happen, and some places are more strict than others. But I do usually make sure to tell you that. So, what happened the other day though? So, a lot of times, if you try to change the number of people on your reservation or subtract, especially subtracting, they will sometimes incur a charge on you. So, just be careful if you're going to be canceling stuff. Show tickets. This is probably the one that I actually give people the most leeway with, because there are a lot of places that you do get discounted show tickets. Places, especially for our resident shows. So like places like Absinthe, places like Ka or O. The prices will drop for those places, and it happens all the time. A lot of concerts. So like concert venues like the Blue Life Theater, the Coliseum. Places like at Resorts World is a good example for this, is that they will have essentially sold out shows, especially for people you really want to see. So I really wanted to see, what is his name? Hans Zimmer. So a lot of the tickets that were available were, sold obviously and being resold. And that's how I kind of got my ticket. The Blue Life Theater, for example, which is at Fontainebleau, they will have tickets for like Duran Duran, for example. And a ticket that is usually, especially when there's only like single seats, like, or only a few couple seats, they will change prices as you do get closer to the show. I would say this from working in the box office, a handful of times, is you can ask, but be like chill about it. Like, don't get super angry, because sometimes you get stuff when you get really angry, to be honest with you, which I don't like. I do not enjoy that. I do not like giving out show tickets for free, because I'm actually really not mean about it, but I am somebody who really plans their concerts. Like if I really want to see somebody, so I buy the ticket. I'm really prepared. So when people just kind of willy-nilly just go and like start asking people from casino for their comp tickets, it's like, no, those actually go to certain people. Do they sometimes get wasted? Of course they do. It's just the nature of the job. But I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who wait last minute and then don't get tickets because you were playing the game. And that is part of the game that you are gambling with when you come to Vegas. It was really funny. I was playing blackjack the other day. And the dealer was like, yeah, I like to slow down. I feel bad. Like when I just feel bad when you lose. And it was funny because I wanted to like tell her like, no, we all signed up for this. We know what we're getting into. Don't feel bad for taking our money, even though it's very nice of you. I don't feel bad when you don't get your tickets for a show. Because that's something that you came to, especially when you're not a local. If you're somebody that flew to Las Vegas and were hoping to see this band, well, if you liked them that much, you should have bought the tickets when they were available. So, again, I'm a little bit snarky with show tickets because if like I really want to go see a show, I'll plan it out. I know when the presale goes on sale. I'll know when the tickets are like up, especially like to the minute. Like when I bought my Backstreet Boys tickets, it was like 10 o'clock is when the show tickets go on sale, and I was right there ready by the computer to find my seats for the Backstreet Boys. I was very excited. So that's probably the one thing I'm probably the meanest about is like show tickets. I just get really weird about it. But I would say out of all the things, that is the thing that you could definitely wait till you get to Las Vegas for, especially for resident shows that are here all the time. That's something that we do very frequently. Cabanas are something you do have to reserve in advance. I would recommend this is something you do in advance. But of all the things that I think you could get away with, depending on the weather and the time of year, a lot of times as we get closer to the date, the prices will sometimes go down. And you usually will get a pretty good deal the same day for a cabana or a daybed. This is great if you have like a party of 5. Cabanas are great for that. And, you can get a pretty decent cabana for a very nice price. It happens all the time. So I think we're running low on our time here. What are any other like little tidbits I can give you about planning for Vegas? I am a planner. That's what I do. I think it's good to have a mixture of both. I think if you are going to plan anything for your trip, the obvious ones are going to be your hotel room. I would book beforehand. Your flight, obviously, because you have to get here. Restaurants, if you are a party of 3 or more, that should also be a priority for you. And if you are going to see a show or show tickets, it is a risk, but it is a really good way to get a good price sometimes. If it is a big, giant concert, so for example, places like Allegiant Stadium, Allegiant Stadium, T-Mobile, honestly, like those tickets like don't go down that much. They do, but not, significantly. And the Sphere, I actually know a lot of locals, especially when it's a show that comes back very frequently, like the Backstreet Boys, like the Eagles did. People will essentially come to the Strip. They will have a cocktail at a bar and just continue to refresh places like Bravo and StubHub. And then once a ticket comes available, they jump in and buy it. I would say that I do not condone using... Did I say Bravo? Bravo is a ticketing site in Las Vegas. So a lot of industry people use Bravo, which for those of you, no free ads, but Bravo is a place that you can sell and buy tickets. So just keep that in mind. But like StubHub or any of those places, if you're going to buy from them, you need to be tech savvy, especially with all of our new arenas and sort of like how the process of processing tickets. It is something that you do have to know how to work your phone, because it is very hard for another person to explain your own phone to you. So please, if you are going to be doing this thing where you buy tickets very last minute, please be tech savvy enough to be able to receive the tickets and then use the tickets, obviously. So it's my little tidbit for you. So for today, that is our episode. Really appreciate you guys hanging in there. I'm sorry we didn't have an episode last like Thursday or Friday. Memorial Day, obviously, things got busy, but this is our new episode today. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you're not a planner, it's okay. If you are a planner, God be with you. We're the same. But again, if you guys really enjoyed this, make sure you give us like a nice little review. Or if you want to rate us on Spotify or the other places that we're on, Apple Podcasts, feel free to do so. We really appreciate it, and I like the feedback. So we might be doing a hotel highlight coming up next. Maybe message me on Instagram or wherever else you guys want to message me at to figure out what hotel to do next. So with that being said, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Really appreciate it. If you see me out in town, come up and say hello. But remember, keep it confidential.